How do we hide ourselves when we're ashamed of our bodies? That's what we're going to talk about today. This week I lost 1.4 pounds. Hi, this is Jill from the North Woods. Boy, that puts me over 60 pounds. So 60 pounds down, and like I said, well, let's look at the date. Yeah, like I said, 11 months in, which is good for me. That's been great. And we'll talk a little bit about that. I could never imagine that this would happen. As a side note, I kind of mentioned it a few weeks ago. I have switched around every piece of software I have used to record these episodes and my podcast. And there was a learning curve. I switched to Final Cut Pro, which has a big learning curve, and Logic Pro compared to the other software piece I was doing. I appreciate you sticking with me. I finally got to the place where I think my sound is okay. The cameras look okay. I switched to a wireless mic because I still have it here, but it's just very far away. So I don't know. We'll see how this goes. So I'm switching things up a little bit to make this easier. But 1.4 pounds, like I said, I think that if you ask me, most weeks I lose 1.4 pounds. I just can't even imagine it. So I suspect, and we're going to talk about this next week, I have about 55 pounds to lose as I see myself shrinking and I see the close. So we went from 4x to now somewhere I'm around 14. If I lose another 55 pounds, I'm going to be somewhere between size 6 and 8. I just can't even, mind blown, right? So this has been going very well, and I'm very excited about it. So far, the 10 milligrams is holding firm. I am a math person, so I was sort of estimating, oh, like how often do I move up? And it's usually every about 2.5 months. That's when the dose starts to fade on me. I stop losing weight. I can tell on ADHD, my brain is kind of switching back to the way it was, and I'll be losing all my superpowers of my brain right now. But very excited and really happy to be here. In a couple weeks, I am going to go camping. There will be no episode that week. I hope, maybe we'll see, that I'm going to bring my laptop. My friend and I are going camping. She's on compounding. And so I hope to interview her about her compounding experience. I don't know that she'll go on the camera, but maybe she'll let me mic her up and have her voice and talk about her experience with it. She does not have a great amount of weight to lose, but she's never been able to do it. And so this has helped her. I don't know. I'm going to see her in a couple weeks. We'll find out. Get to a place where she couldn't get before. And so we have, in some places, similar experiences, in other places, not so much, because she can manage her dose. She is moving up much more slowly. Like I said, I went from 2.5 to 5.0 right away within the month because I technically was diabetic. And the rules are that diabetics should be at 5.0 at least. And then my doctor told me to go up slowly. And the reason for this was, if we have to kind of revisit this, is back then I was thinking I'm going to lose 130 pounds. Well, if you kind of take the doses and you say, well, there's 2.5, 5.0, but let's start at 5 because that's where I was. 5, 7.5, 10.0. So I'm on dose number 3. There are only 2 more doses, 12.5 and 15, and then you are tapped out. When the 15 dose stops working for you, and I see people out there on YouTube and in Reddit mention this, you start losing the ability to lose weight like you did. I think that you still can. I'm not at that point, but I can tell when the dose taps out for me, weight loss gets hard. Then I'm at 0.2, 0.4. Right now I'm at 1.4. And I cruised through my stalling point in like 188 and crushed it all the way down to mid 170s. And now I'm below what I weighed when I worked out with my trainer. And I'm still working out with my trainer, so she's excited about that. But, that he wanted me to time this out so that I could lose the amount of weight I want to lose. So now I'm at 55 pounds. 10.0, how long is that going to carry me to? Kind of hoped that I would be able to last in going up in dose until July, mid-July, because I'm speaking at a conference in mid-July. And when I go to a new dose level, I don't feel great. So if I can skip vacation, camping, and then the conference I'm speaking at, That would be nice. So that is the plan that I at least hold out until mid-July. I'm speaking, by the way, on it's a technology conference, and I'm speaking about weight loss in the Apple ecosystem. So if you're interested in more technical topics, I have avoided those kind of because I'm sort of talking person to person. I am happy to do technology to show you how you can use tech tools to help you lose weight or keep track or exercise. That's what my conference speech is going to be about. But what I was going to talk about today, and I was kind of thinking about this when I was working out with my trainer for the last week, is how much I hide myself. I really have spent my life hiding myself. So, my grandmother, when she was still alive, she had a camera. And when she died, I went through all of her pictures and started looking at the pictures that she had. And I noticed I'm not in one of them. Well, maybe I was in one of them, right? But at like the age 7 years old, I have a bunch of photos of me and then I'm out of photos. I am like hiding. And why? I learned how to use the camera so I could be behind the camera, taking pictures instead of being in the pictures. So I used technology and learning how to use a camera to hide myself. And then I realized, wow, I'm not in any family pictures, barely any at all. And we didn't have phones, so only the person who knew how to use the camera could take the pictures, and that was me. But it's easy to get in this place where you feel shame about yourself. And there are things that you do in order to hide yourself from the world. And I realize now I've spent my lifetime doing it. And my friend is encouraging me here. You don't have to, like, she watched me in Target and I was walking by someone and I went, to walk on the other side of them. And she's like, you're not that big. You don't have to lurch all the way to the other side of the aisle to get around people. She goes, I watch you all the time walk around people, and you are walking around people because you think you weigh what you did. And when I lost weight the first time with my trainer, that was back in 2014, it was slow. I guess that's what I'm getting at. There was time to adjust. I was working out. I was getting physically more fit. It took a long period of time. So basically, I had the surgery where I nearly gave myself cancer. Luckily, I did not have cancer. They didn't know until they took out every single one of my organs. And then they said, nope, it was just close to cancer, but it wasn't cancer. Okay, cool. Got myself into shape at that point, lost all that weight because I freaked myself out. And then, like I said, I had time to adjust. And I'm not complaining. I am not complaining. But this weight loss has been so quick. And I'm not even doing it the quickest way people do it. But for me, quick, reliable. I can almost tell you what weight I'm going to be at. In fact, I did. Someone at the conference, she says, are you going to be wasted away by the time you speak at this conference in July? I have no dress clothes, by the way. By the way, I have nothing to wear. And I said, no, I should be somewhere in sort of like around 160. Last year, when I went to the same conference, 240, right? So this is going to be a big change. But I can almost count and tell you what I'm going to weigh at certain points of time. At the end of this year, I might be done, or it might be somewhere in the, I don't know, like 15, 20 pounds to go range by the end of this year. By next hiking season, which I always consider to be mid-March, I'm going to be done. That's how reliable this drug has been, but I think it's been so quick. My brain is not caught up with the physical weight loss. Before I had time. Now, I bought clothes in November I can't wear anymore. I don't even know why I buy clothes at all. I bought hiking pants a few weeks ago because I just had nothing to wear on vacation and camping. Those were tight when I wore them. In fact, I walked around the store asking the clerk, are these too tight? Like, should I not go out of the house in these? And she's like, no, they fit just as is perfectly. But, they are exactly right on the dot kind of thing. And I was embarrassed. Now they fit normally. There's sort of the right level of bagginess on me that makes me feel comfortable. That was what? I don't know. 4 weeks ago, something like that. So you can tell how quickly this is going for me. And while I'm taking these clothes. In fact, there were some clothes that I had for summer, some tanks and things that I only wear in summer, biking pants. I went from not being able to fit in them to now I don't fit in them. They are already way too big for me. And in fact, there's a thing I'm going to do next week, which should be exciting. I am getting tomorrow a DEXA scan. And we're going to talk next week about how do you know how much weight you have left to lose. So they wrote me an email and told me, don't eat 2 hours before, don't drink water, and wear something tight. And I sat there blinking like, I don't have anything tight. In fact, I never bought tight clothes before. So I never intentionally buy tight clothes. I don't own tights. So my friend who's also taking Mounjaro said, "Do you have biking shorts?" I do. I have biking shorts. I can wear that. So I'm going to wear biking shorts of all things because I have nothing else that fits me tight. Anyway, so that'll be next week. We'll talk about weight loss numbers and goals and the different ways that you can tell. Basically, like I said, when I was reflecting on those photos from my grandmother's place and just the fact I started thinking about this, that I was like at the gym working out with my trainer and he's got mirrors on the wall. And I'm like, ooh, why is there mirrors on the wall? That you go to a big gym, right? Mirrors everywhere. I'm like, this is humiliating, embarrassing. Do you want me to even come here? And I'm sitting there working out, and then I looked in the mirror and I went, oh, it's not really so bad anymore. Oh, look at that. I can kind of, I see the neck things in my, I probably just blew out the mic, but I can see parts of my body. In fact, when I sleep now, I notice that I can feel my hip bone. And this will be exciting, but really kind of stupid. This weekend, I'm trying to get ahead for camping time. So I worked on podcasts all week long over the extended weekend. And I sat so much that my butt hurt. I'm like, why does my rear end hurt? I sit all the time. I love sitting. And I'm like, I lost padding. That's why. The other funny thing is that I noticed that I was in my car and I was having trouble. I said, I can't see it. Like I feel like my seat is sinking. And my friend looks at me. She goes, no, I think your butt is shrinking. I had to move my seat up a few inches because my butt came down a few inches and I don't have as much padding there. And so I can't sit for the amount of sitting I like to do anymore. And so those are just some changes I'm noticing. But like I said, it is a lifetime of shame. I'll be honest with you. I've been embarrassed about my weight, like I said, since I was probably 8 years old, 9 years old, somewhere in there. And so what did I do? Wore baggy clothes. I wear baggy clothes all the time. So when they said to wear something tight, I don't have anything tight. Then I had friends, who always made good suggestions. Dark colors, right? You want to sort of have dark colors because it kind of hides how much of there is you and how much of there in the shadows. I also made sure that I layered so my clothes maybe were a little bit more intricate in places where I was more overweight. So you couldn't really see how much was the floofed up collar and this and that and the other thing. And I just avoided anything that was even close to being a proper size for me because I felt too exposed about it, and I still do. It's so weird for me. I wore my friend, when I got down to the weight that I got down when I worked out with my trainer before, I bought like this really tiny workout outfit, tiny for me. And my friend took my picture of it. And if I figure out how to use the software, I'll get the picture up there. And I decided that when I got to that weight, I wore that outfit again. And I was embarrassed by it because it fit exactly me. And then like I said, just like the hiking pants, it just fit me perfectly. The other thing too is that, I think when you're in school and you took books and you sort of hunched over and you carried your books in front of you, did that all the time. You had to run in gym class. Well, let me tell you, back when I was a kid, no bras. There were no bras that hold you up like they do now. And so then the boys would all sit there and go, and then they make fun of you as you were running in gym class. And so there were times where I just decided to fail aspects of gym class because I didn't want to run in front of boys. Oh, that's just it. Sitting behind pillows, or if we have group photos to be taking, I always tried to get in the second row and hide behind people so someone's head could sort of be in front of the bulk of me. And of course, then they say, "Well, Jill, you're really short. Come out in front." And I'm like, "I don't want to come out in front." But, I always had to do that. But I always tried to hide myself into photos. Or even like sitting in corners on the edge of things. If there were like school dances, I tried to hide. I just hoped that people would ignore me. Now, the funny thing of it is that I'm also a public speaker. So I sort of had two modes. You ever see that frog who, like, when people were looking at him, he just sat there and ribbit, ribbit. But then, when no one was looking at him, he would get up and start doing Broadway show tunes. That's me. So I always try to hide everywhere I am. I don't like being in the public scene, but I'm a public speaker and I love public speaking so much that when I speak at conferences, I turn into that frog. "Hello, my baby," and I am gone. So I do get people to notice me at those very few times when I'm doing public speaking. But when I'm in most other circumstances, I just try to hide. I'm a wallflower and I don't try to be noticed. I go to church, I kind of walk out. And it's not like I don't like people. I'm trying to get out of places. And so it makes me wonder, how many of you are missing from photographs, not in your yearbook, not going to events where there would be a camera there, or as soon as the camera is taken out. It was a little easier back when I was a kid because the camera, when it got taken out, it was a big deal. But now we all have cameras in our pockets. But as soon as someone whips out a camera, do you go running to the other side of the room and get out of the pictures? I do all the time. Then the other part of it is Jill's the class clown, right? People overcompensate with humor. I did that all the time. It is a personality stereotype. Someone used to call it, and this is very not a nice name, but I'm going to say it anyway, the fat friend archetype. The clown, the people pleaser, and that's me. If you can't be the good-looking girl in school, and I'm sure boys are the same way. If you can't be the good-looking boy in school, you become the class clown. You entertain people, you keep them laughing, and everyone loves you because you're funny, or you do this, or you do that, or even people pleasing. I was the person in school, I was on the yearbook staff, and people would come into my classroom and go, "Hey, Jill," because they knew I was super nice, "will you come and take photographs of our, club?" And of course I would. I loved, helping people, and I still love helping people. But you start to realize maybe you got that way because you're trying to um, be the people pleaser and, make people like you, even though they don't like you because you're not popular, because you're not the pretty girl. The boys don't like you, right? And so that's the other part of it. And then other things has to do with like avoiding life. Maybe you skip events, you don't go and join clubs. The funny thing about it is I am sort of a natural athlete in some ways. I was very good at competitive sports like softball. I was good at even football when we used to play like a flag football in grade school. And I was great at weightlifting. Weightlifting was the only gym class I ever did really good at. I did well at? I did well at. But I got to the point, so I played softball for years and years and years, and I was pretty good at it. And then at some point, I would teach everyone how to be good at softball, like the logic. I was very good at the logic. See, so now he's on the second, and you're going to throw here, and you're going to throw that. I was very good at that. So I was good at the baseball logic of things. And then all of a sudden, I was not physically able to keep up with kids when I got to high school. So I dropped out of sports. When I was in grade school, we had, of all things, a swimming pool. So I'm way up in the North Woods in the middle of trees, and my school had a swimming pool. And one of the stupid things that my school did is they issued swimsuits for one, but they were color coded. And so it was like red was size 2 and orange was size 4 and blue and all the pretty colors were at the lower side, and then it went to black, and then the largest color was brown. I think that they said it was either size 18 or size 20. And you had to wear those swimsuits that they issued to you, and everyone knew your size. So I would walk out to the swim pool, and all that. And I was actually pretty good at swimming. I was a lifeguard for a number of years because I could, and I was, certified in all those life things. But I had to wear the brown swimsuit, and immediately everyone knows that you're size 18 to 20. everyone knows that you're in the largest swimsuit. And it was humiliating. Not only that, it was kind of a not flattering color. Oh, so, then you start really pulling yourself out. I dropped out of softball. I stopped going to swim class. I stopped everything I was doing. I just got out of it. I started joining the math elites and the debate club. I was good at those things too, but no one comes and takes your picture. And I was the yearbook picture taker. So if I wasn't going to take the picture of the team, then I'm not going to be in the picture. So anyway, we just have those images. And I think that what is teaching me this lesson now that I'm going through this, it's starting to hit me emotionally that I don't have to hide, that I don't have to walk around the sides of people, that I can, like I said, at the concert, I could sit in my seat and not be hitting the outside edges of the seat. And it's starting to get to me that I am now at a weight where my life is opened back up again, and it's not just about the clothes, which I talked about before, getting, like, what kind of clothes do I wanna wear? I do these videos and the podcast videos all the time, and now I'm starting to look at them going, I don't really look good in that color," or I think, "Maybe I shouldn't wear graphic tees, maybe that's not what I look good in," or something like that. I'm starting to notice myself more. I'm hoping not to become vain. That is not the goal, but I'm starting to notice what looks good, what doesn't look good. And now I'm even starting to think, well, maybe I might dress differently, or I might not hide myself so much anymore, or maybe I will join a softball team. I'm good at softball. Maybe I should go do that. And we just start losing our identity of being the overweight person, the fat person, the person that I mean, I checked myself out of dating because I was sick of men never liking me. They always liked my adorable athletic friend, and I'm not fighting that. I understand it completely. But I started realizing, I just decided, the guy who plays Jesus from The Chosen said that I have just given that aspect to the Lord, meaning if God sends me someone right my way, I'm not going to, turn it down, but I'm also not looking either. And like I said, I'm starting to now think about someday clothes instead of safety clothes. I am now throwing out a bunch of clothes I love, but I'm like, there's a lot of clothes that I will love again. T-shirts I've really enjoyed or colors. Now this is my chance to think of it. So I have to stop thinking about this weight loss as like a subtraction in my life, but now it's an addition to my life that maybe I can come out of hiding. Let me tell you one other story about hiding, and it has to do with these videos. I am a podcaster. I've had these podcasts. I just had, I think, my 5th anniversary for podcasting. I like podcasting. There's no cameras. You just talk in the mic. Hi, this is Jill from the North Woods. And it's very comfortable. And then when I started realizing I wasn't getting community interaction, that podcasts depend on you having guests in order for people to learn about your podcast, or you go on other people's podcasts, that I realized YouTube was a better choice for me. Horrified. I'm horrified. I don't want to speak in front of the camera. I hate cameras. Again, I told you, I became the tech person so I could be on the other side of the camera. And at one point, I started, playing with it when I first got into this. Could I just be like a little shrunken head? Could I be just a little square box in the corner? Maybe I don't even have to show myself. And then I started realizing that there's so many AI channels out there that I don't watch channels unless I see the picture of the person on the front of the channel, because then I know that it's an actual person talking. I'm not watching an AI channel. Like, I'm going to hold the camera right here and you're just going to sort of see here up, right? And you'll notice at the beginning of my podcast, I was very high up on the camera. And just a few weeks ago, someone sent a comment in on one of my podcasts or one of my YouTube channels and said, "Hey, I love your videos, or great job, but I think it would be better if you showed more of yourself." And then I just sat there blinking like, but I don't want to show more of myself. I want to actually show less of myself, to be honest with you. So I'm trying it, so now you're seeing down here, and so I'm actually showing more of myself. This is really hard for me. I don't want to show you any of me. And in fact, I just bought a cable today that maybe I could go record on my reading nook and you would see all of me. Or, like I'd be sitting there cross-legged on that couch because it's more of a couch kind of thing. And I thought, ugh, Does anyone want to see me sitting on a couch? So I'm trying to hide myself even in these videos. I didn't do these videos for a long time because of how horrified I was. This is a jump for me. I'd rather be a podcaster, but I'm getting better at this, and hopefully, even internally, I'm feeling more comfortable. So I think that that's part of it. But like I said, the problem, not a problem, the thing with Mounjaro is this goes so quickly, so consistently that honestly, all these hiking clothes that I just bought, by next season, I'm not going to be able to wear any of them. And I'm just going to have to have gratitude. And I do. I am so grateful for all of this. I am so grateful about letting go of this weight. It is, I hate to count on anything because you say, oh, what's going to happen? What if I lost my health insurance? What if I lost my job and I couldn't afford to do it? And so there's always these what ifs in my brain that maybe I won't be thin. Maybe I'll never get to my goal weight because X, Y, and Z could happen. And now I'm starting to think, oh, this might actually happen. And so now I'm starting to think about the what ifs. What are some hikes I could do that were out of my life? I had just decided I'm never going to lose weight. I'm never going to do those hikes. I'm never going to have those dreams. Clothes for me were never the thing. Being even thin was never the same. But I was like never going to be fit. I was never going to be athletic. I was never going to be that person who could do that 500-mile hike. And now maybe I can. And I'm starting to let myself dream just a little bit more. And maybe I'm going to start going from invisible to like now I'm probably in the not hiding stage, and maybe I'm just going to go into the I'm just out there, I am just me stage. Anyway, that's kind of where I'm thinking about this now. I mean, hiding really has been my whole life. Everything from the baggy clothes to the body language to withdrawing from teams and everything like that. And instead, it was shame. It was embarrassment over my weight. It was understanding, like, well, yeah, I guess I understand why guys don't like me. And I'm now starting to connect again. And I'm starting to realize that it is okay for me to be out there. I feel like I'm rewriting my body language and I'm rewriting me just being there. I forgot where I was the other day and it was like a group of people who were talking, and usually I sort of go off into a corner. Instead, it was like, I know what it was. I was bird watching, and the high school let a bunch of kids, they were 18-year-olds come out and do a project in this park that we were in. They had to take pictures of certain birds and animals. And before, if I saw teenagers, because teenagers can be just at times the most cruel of all when it comes to weight, I would run the other way. And instead, I sat and talked to them. And I said, oh, you see that bird over there? That's a hooded warbler. We don't really get those very often. It's pretty rare. If you took a picture of that, that would be impressive. And I started talking to high school students, which I would never have done before. Whew, so like I said, to me, this is a coming out of sorts for me. Not like that, but you know what I mean? Like I said, I'm sort of thinking about the rest of my life, the hikes I want to do. My friend who is on Mounjaro through the compounding clinic, she's the one that did the hike with me in England. It was 102 miles, and she was all excited, like, we should do more hikes and we should do this more often. And I just kind of thought, I barely survived this one. I walked out of the hiking trail and into Bath, England, limping. I mean, I hurt myself, but maybe now I won't. Maybe in another year, I could start doing those things again. I could start wearing brighter clothes, more exciting clothes, as I'm wearing like the most pale clothes I could find. But maybe I will be able to wear, brighter clothes, more exciting clothes, more form-fitting clothes. Maybe I'll actually have something that actually fits me for the first time. And so there's this concept, and we'll finish here, of the gap. That there's a gap in your life where I think the book was from Dan Sullivan called The Gap and the Gain. But the idea is that you always think of what you want, and then there's what you are, and then there's the gap between the two of you. And some of it has to do, like I talked about this before in the other podcast, the knowing versus doing gap. You know what to do, but you won't do it. The intention versus action gap. That was all me all along. It's living in the land between was, is, will be. And you just ache for the not yet, that it's not there yet. And maybe the not yet is coming. Maybe that's what's coming. I think someone even called it a tragic gap where you realize you're not going to get what you want. And for the first time, I think maybe I am. And I'm going to walk out of this house tomorrow, no cameras, in biking shorts and a tank top. And I'm going to go to that DEXA scan and be out there. Very exposed. But next week, we'll talk a little bit about that. I appreciate you watching. If you have comments, if you're going through the same thing where you have spent a lifetime hiding your weight, hiding yourself, being behind the camera instead of front of the camera, let me know in the comments. You can always email me at jill@startwithsmallsteps.com. I'd love to hear from you. I hope you have a great week.